Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and it's happened. The centenary special of Doctor Who, The Power of the Doctor, has come and gone. I'm recording this literally minutes after broadcast. There is a lot to say, there is a lot to get through, and I'm gonna try and get through this as best I can. Heads up, there is going to be major spoilers. This is a full-on spoiler reaction or review, so please do keep that in mind. This is very big and spoilery. If you haven't seen it yet, go and watch The Power of the Doctor, because I'm about to get into it right now. Also, apologies, I've had a full day of performing, I've come straight home and watched it, and where do I start? Okay, so obviously going into this, there was a lot riding on this one. This was Jodie's last episode. A lot of people were hyped for this. A lot of people had a lot of expectations. But did it meet those expectations? Well, that's what we're going to delve into. So starting off, a lot of people were right in that the bullet train sequence we saw in the trailer did come first. I'm not sure if they actually confirmed that in an interview. But we see the Doctor, Yaz, and Dan arrive on this almost like, speeding bullet train. There's a problem going on. Cybermasters are back. And the Cybermen right from the bat seem like a fairly credible threat. Yes, they all got shot down, but of course they're regenerated. But I'm going to try and go as chronological as possible. But the Cybermen on the whole, I thought, in this they felt like quite a good threat, which I always like. Sometimes I think the Cybermen don't feel like a threat in their own stories, but this felt really good at the start. So obviously they're trying to get down there, and in the process, Dan gets shot by a Cyberman in his space helmet, and he starts to lose his oxygen. Thankfully, he survives, and they basically slow down the train, save the day. But the Cybermasters have taken some very important cargo, and the cargo seems to be, at first, a child. And at first, I for some reason, maybe it's because I'm tired, my mind was like, is that the timeless child? Or the young version of the Doctor? But it wasn't, but we'll get to that. So we see a brief shot in Siberia, 1916, where Rasputin is called upon to see the Tsar of Russia, and we also cut to modern-day 2022, where in an art gallery we see Ace again. We see Ace observing that these pictures aren't there. Sophie Aldred is back, and this sounds so strange, but just seeing her and hearing her talk in modern Doctor Who, or hearing her back on screen again, this would have made 9-year-old Adam incredibly happy. I mean, a lot of parts of this made me emotional, but you got to understand, Ace was one of the first classic companions I really saw and connected with, and just to see one of my childhood favourites back was very surreal and very bloody brilliant. She gets in contact with Tegan, and again, it's just the same. One of my first classic companions, love her to death. Janet Fielding, brilliant. Yes, brilliant. Both true to their characters. They discuss they've got this doll, which of course is the tiny version of Ashad, the lone Cyberman from Series 12. But before we know it, we're back in the TARDIS. You may notice this episode doesn't let up at all in the slightest, does it? And, they're back in Liverpool. Dan's back for his date with Di. We don't see Di, which I guess is a bit of a shame. But alas, he's back in Liverpool, and he decides he's not going to continue with the Doctor and Yaz. The experience of him being shot in the mask and coming that close to death had a profound impact on him. It made him realise that, hey, this life's not for him. You could argue he's had several brushes with death in the last couple of episodes, but I thought the realisation moment was well handled. And say what you will about Dan, but John Bishop, I thought, did a great job with that scene. I think even though he's mainly known for his comedy, as an actor, he doesn't do a bad job at all, and that scene I thought he handled really, really well. But just as that's happening, as Yaz has gone outside... Well, let's discuss that, actually. Yeah, the Doctor not issuing goodbyes. I like that. This version of the Doctor, 13, sort of established that she doesn't like goodbyes or saying farewells to her companions. So I like that keeping in trend. Yaz, of course, gives him a bit more of a hearty farewell. And they remember that Dan's house has disappeared from Flux. So, nice bit of continuity there. Still haven't addressed Flux in general. Has the Flux still wiped out 3/4 of the universe or whatever? We've still left that nugget. But the TARDIS gets an intercepted communication from a Dalek. And this Dalek says that both humans and Daleks are under threat from the information it has, and the Doctor needs to trust it in order to wipe out every Dalek in existence in order to save the human race. Now, the minute this was mentioned, this gave me instant callbacks to the 1975 story Genesis of the Daleks. If you're not familiar, basically the Time Lords send the Fourth Doctor on a mission to wipe out the Daleks at their creation, thus they can never wreak havoc, etc. And when confronted with the pivotal moment, the Doctor is centimetres away from doing it, but he can't bring himself to do it because he claims he doesn't have the right. So to see Jodie even be tempted by this idea again of wiping out all Daleks in existence, a nice Genesis callback, parting of the ways as well with the Ninth Doctor, nice little enticement. It's like, will they really do it this time? Back in Russia now, we see the Master disguised as Rasputin come to the Russian Winter Palace to see the Tsar and his wife ailing about their son who's in poor health, and we get to see the Master doing not just obviously his disguising thing that he used to do, but we get to see some hypnotizing, which again was a very classic like Roger Delgado, Anthony Ainley, like very hypnotizy stuff, which I thought was really nice. And also I wanted to address, obviously this is meant to be set in Russia and Siberia earlier, but everyone is displaying an English accent. Now, I think I'm in two minds about this one because, when we've seen the TARDIS translation circuit, when the Doctor and friends are around, that sort of was the clause that, everyone can sound English, it's translation. But considering it's just the Master, I don't know, it would have been maybe nice had they hired or like authentic actors from that region, or had they even attempted an accent that was vaguely of that region. I don't know. Again, it's a very odd one. I'm in two minds. It didn't distract me on the whole, but I thought I'd just bring it up. The Doctor and Yaz land on this strange metallic planet, and they see another police box TARDIS, but this is the one that has the sign of ha 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 that we saw from the trailer, and obviously that's been left by the Master. On the inside, we see that the core of the TARDIS has been routed to the planet. It's like used almost like as an energy conductor. And then we go out. Remember this ball thing we saw in the trailer? This, we see it first as that little girl from the cargo, but it turns out that was more of a conscious shield. So what this little girl actually is, I think, again, there's so much going on in this episode, right? From what I understand, I think this girl is actually like an interface, and it's actually this source of like pure energy, very rare in the universe, the Doctor says. It's a really interesting concept, actually. Sentient energy, that's what I wrote down. She said sentient energy, which I think is pretty cool. Pure sentient energy. But the Doctor's dealing with everything right now. They're trying to figure this out, and then when they're back in the TARDIS, Kate Stewart calls from UNIT and is like, Doctor, we need you. So 13 is she's got everything on her plate at the minute. And when she goes, she obviously reunites with Ace and Tegan. Now, this in itself was a big moment. I think a lot of fans were excited for this. The Doctor finally reuniting with two companions who haven't been seen on screen for, between 30 and 40 years. And that instant moment when the Doctor clocks them, I think is Jodie's reaction, her pause before she addresses them, I think is beautiful. Like from an acting standpoint, really well handled. Because, she hasn't seen him for a long time. And at first, we get a bit of Tegan's anger and bitterness. She hasn't mellowed as she's gone on, but I think it's justified. When she was left in 1984, see, this episode's giving the idea that, the Doctor hasn't looked in for those 38 years. She's a bit bitter about it. She says to Yaz that we used to be you, which sort of knocks Yaz's confidence a bit, I think. Sort of makes her those insecurities flare up a little bit. Jumping ahead a bit, I would have loved for that angle to maybe be a tiny bit more manifested into Yaz. That sort of, we've had it before, but it's that classic thing of there were others before you, and maybe them two having a scene about it. I don't know, maybe a little more clarification would have been really nice. But I love the fact that Tegan was staying true to like how she left the TARDIS, how it's been a long time. But just to take a sidestep, of course, this does raise the question of expanded media, because Tegan and Ace have had a lot of adventures with their Doctors in expanded media, like, Big Finish audio dramas, in books, etc. Now, a lot of it, from what I understand, the expanded media is during their original time in the TARDIS. It's set during that time on TV, so it's in keeping. However, both Tegan and Ace in expanded media have met either other Doctors, or they've met their Doctors later in life. There's one fantastic story that springs to mind, which is called The Gathering, which features a older Tegan in then the mid-2000s reuniting with the Fifth Doctor, and it's a beautiful story. It's wonderful. Now, of course, it seems like they've thought we're not going to acknowledge the expanded media stuff, because my take on the whole thing is Doctor Who is such a vast universe, right? There's so many characters, storylines, etc., that maybe if you try to adhere to all of it, how much freedom do you have to actually create? Like, that you could, there's always a way around it, but Personally, the fact that they didn't really touch on much of the expanded media stuff didn't bother me too much. Like, I wasn't, every time I saw them, I didn't think, oh, they didn't address the Gathering, or they didn't address all the other stories, like Ace meeting the 13th Doctor in A Childhood's End. You know, she's technically met the Doctor and Yaz before in book form, but do you know what I mean? It's a conundrum, but it didn't really bother me during the episode. We see Sacha Dhawan in the modern day, clean-shaven at a or whatever it is, you know, he's shrunken them all the experts on volcanoes, because that's part of his plan. And Sacha, I've got to say, is deliciously creepy in the modern day. As Rasputin's good, but him in the modern day is just absolutely, like, unnerving is the word, I think. He's really unnerving to watch. He's very, like, creepy, and I think that's a great angle for his master, certainly. But when Unit comes in, the Doctor asks Yaz to cover the master with a gun, which of course is very out of character with the Doctor, especially this Doctor, someone very positive, someone very warm, someone very open, saying to Yaz, hey, grab that gun, you gotta cover him. You know, it's and the Master picks up on that. It's a very deliciously dark and I think desperate moment for this incarnation, that she's having to resort to saying to Yaz, hey, this gun, you gotta pick that up, you gotta cover him, and Yaz does it. I thought it was a really nice moment. Then, to jump around the plot again, we've got Vinder. Vinder's back, baby, and he's crashed on this second planet in his ship. He gives us a bit of backstory as to like why that is, following the wormhole technology, trying to save. I can't remember the energy source's name. It has a name, but you know, he's trying to rescue that, basically. But then we briefly go back to Unit HQ, where the Master is being led down into a cell, and he confronts Tegan and Ace again. And again, this exchange was great. He says to Tegan, oh, do you keep your Auntie Vanessa in a little doll's house? Because, of course, that's how they met. He shrunk Auntie Vanessa, killing her, which was a nice callback for Tegan and for Ace. We get a little mention of expanded media. He says, oh, you and the Doctor fell out, your Machiavellian master. Because, of course, the 7th Doctor was known for being very manipulative, very scheming. So I think we are addressing some expanded media there. I want to say it's more the New Adventures stuff than Big Finish, but I could be wrong. Again, there was a lot going on. I'm very tired. But yes, we get a little, and we get a survival reference that the Master was half cat. And he says, oh, you can experiment. I thought that was a quirky line. The only clunker of that scene, I thought, was when he randomly turns to Kate Stewart and says, your dad was an idiot. Like, I don't know, it just seemed very clunky and out of nowhere, and as an insult, a bit poor. I think he could have gone a lot darker with that, but alas. So now we go to Bolivia. We're in another country. We're in Bolivia now, and the Doctor meets the Dalek and, you know, debates the whole, oh, do I destroy the Daleks? You know, are you giving me the right information? But she's taking the information from this rogue Dalek at first. And Yaz finds the Dalek, oh, you're doing something with the Earth. At first, because it looked like a drill, I thought they were drilling into the Earth. We were getting like a Dalek invasion of Earth scenario again, which would have been a throwback. And then back in Unit, do you see what I mean? I'm trying to be as chronological, but we're jumping everywhere in terms of scenery. So the Master talks to Tegan and Ace and explains that the little doll of Ashad, he was compressed, but it can also be reversed, which I don't think we've seen in Doctor Who. I don't remember the Master ever using his tissue compression eliminator to reverse it. Again, if I'm wrong, let me know, but I think this is the first time. And for some reason, this really blew my mind, Ashad is also literally a Russian doll. He literally opens up and tons of Cybermen emerge from him, including another Ashad. It's like, I was watching this like, what is happening? It was very cool, but I was like, what is happening here? And immediately Ace grabs some weapons, fires them at the Cybermen, saying, oh, you think Unit didn't prepare gold bullets for you, tin heads? Because, of course, again, a little 80s Who reference, Cybermen used to be vulnerable to gold. But Ashad brushes that aside and says, we long ago developed a resistance to gold. Are you kidding me? Which, you know, again, nice little callback. Now, when I first saw Ashad, I was very conflicted in a way, because obviously this character had a very, like, almost seemingly finite ending in A Timeless Children when he got shrunk, because, of course, then I don't think we knew that the Master could unshrink things with his tissue compression eliminator, but I was hoping we'd get a bit more. Now, the Master quickly says that, oh, it was such a good idea to clone you, like, remains all your characteristics and stuff, but all of what we get of Ashad in this episode, some of it's nice, but to me it doesn't feel, obviously it's a clone, so maybe it's not, I don't know, Ashad felt a bit odd in this. Part of me feels like you could have had Ashad as the Russian doll thing, but then after he opened up, he sort of expired. But I don't think we needed to clone Ashad, is what I'm saying. I don't think we needed another version of Ashad in there. I think that could have just been a generic cyber leader. So the Doctor is confronted by the Dalek. We're back in Bolivia, by the way. She's confronted by proper Daleks who destroy the rogue Dalek and force the Doctor to get in its casing, which was a very weird imagery, seeing the Doctor, like, in Dalek casing, like, oh, that's, don't like it. I don't like it. I do, but you know what I mean. It's weird. And the Master's here with Daleks and Cybermen, because he's united them all together because their hate for the Doctor is stronger than their own hatred of each other. It felt like a very Pandorica Opens moment, you know, in Matt Smith's time when all the monsters came together to trap them. That's what it felt like. It felt like a unification. And we get, oh my god, this bit I died at, when he says, oh, I love the garb of being Rasputin. He says, I always dress for the occasion. Movie Master reference, baby. I love that. And the Master's Dalek plan, bruh, like, the Dalek's master plan, the Master's Dalek plan. Chibnall, you know what you're doing. You were going fan service to the max, but I'll talk more about the fan service towards the end. So the plan is the Master wants to do forced regeneration, the highest penalty that the Time Lords had. Now, of course, this did happen to the second Doctor in the War Games. He was forced to regenerate. So, it's a neat little callback to the show's history. Then the Master plays the song Rasputin by Boney M, which I love, by the way. I was wondering if it was going to get in there, and it did. And I was cackling to myself with how silly it is. And the Master, he's dancing, he's got disco lights, the monster. There's a brilliant shot where a Cyberman and a Dalek look at each other as if to say, like, dude, what the hell is this? What's going on? Which I thought was magnificent. I loved that little moment. Just, everything about that I loved. So the Master's plan is to get in one of these booths himself and force the Doctor to regenerate in the Master. That's twisted. That's messed up. I like that. These sort of dark concepts that Doctor Who can get away with, I think, are great to see. And it happens. It works. The Master becomes the Doctor with the Master's personality, obviously. And seeing Sasha in 13's outfit, including with the earring, was weird, but I loved it. It was and his mischievousness. He was like, "Come on, Yaz, let's go on an adventure. Let's save a sick animal." Like, just riffing off what the Doctor stands for. I thought, brilliant idea, fantastic. And Sasha again smashed it, man. Absolutely smashed it. Meanwhile, back, it's so funny because we jump around everywhere. Meanwhile, back at Unit, so the Cybermen are on the loose, and Kate's like, "Yo, we got to lock down. Ace Tegan, you got to get out of here." So Ace grabs some parachutes and her jacket, her classic Ace jacket, which, again, really cool to see her wear that, and her baseball bat, to which apparently Beyonce copied all her moves. I don't know if that's a reference to a Beyonce music video. I'm not familiar with all of them, but it's just that made me laugh, that line in general. And, just Sasha in general is, again, brilliant, I think. His maniacalness. And the costumes, all the throwbacks. He's wearing the 7th Doctor's jumper. He's wearing Tom Baker's scarf. He's wearing the 5th Doctor's celery. He's even got the 2nd Doctor's recorder. Like, again, fan service through the roof, baby. And I'm here for it. But again, more on fan service at the end. We'll see. So then we see the Dark Jacket Doctor. In this, Jodie herself, in this barren place. And then we see David Bradley, the First Doctor, or the new First Doctor, if you like. And I was like, what is going on? And then we see Colin Baker. We see Peter Davison. We see Paul McGann. We even see Sylvester McCoy. I was like, what? What is happening here? Like, this is insane. My head. It's just, like, so where they are is like a place between... It's where they go in the process of regeneration, almost, right? You know, like, this is where they pass through. And the 8th Doctor's not wearing the robes that the others wear. He's wearing, like, his own garb, and they have a little quick squabble. I found that really funny as well. Great to see these guys here. Now, obviously, you can argue it raises the question, you know, where was Tom Baker? Where was Chris Eccleston, David Tennant, Matt Smith, Capaldi? And, you know, at the minute, we don't know. We don't know yet if they were all asked. I'd like to think they all were, or at least some of them, you know. Maybe they were asked, maybe they were busy, maybe they didn't want to. You know, there's a whole plethora of reasons why they didn't. But I think just seeing any classic Doctors in this, I thought it warmed my heart to no end. And Tegan, by the way, stayed behind. She didn't want to go with Ace. She's going to help fight with Kate Stewart. And she mentions that all these things she's done, and she's seen off 2 husbands too. Now, again, in the expanded media, I think in a short trip book, it was established that Tegan got married to a guy. However, there is reference, and I think, was it in Sarah Jane Adventures? I can't remember. There's reference somewhere that maybe Tegan formed a relationship with Nyssa, another former companion of the Doctor, but she says 2 former husbands, so sorry, Tissa Stans. That theory, according to Doctor Who on TV at the moment, that's dead. That's a dead theory. But, you know, this is Doctor Who. Anything can happen. Ace is back in the TARDIS. She jumps off the building, is saved by the TARDIS. Oh, mate, seeing her in the TARDIS is brilliant. And then... now listen, this I personally found the most emotional part of the episode for me. Obviously at the end we'll talk about Jodie leaving, which was emotional, but this hit me like a ton of bricks because I was not expecting this at all. Well, not in the way that it happened. So Tegan is on her way she's trying to get to the basement, obviously to get to the self-destruct mechanism basically of the unit building and the AI interface. I forgot to mention that. So to help out Yaz, the Doctor left these implants in Ace, Tegan, and Yaz, which basically help create an AI interface around them of Jodie. I can't remember all the explanation, but Jodie is there and somehow, right? So the Jodie AI hologram confronts Tegan, who then changes into Peter Davison as the 5th Doctor in costume, and they have this little chat, and it's Five and Tegan on TV again, man. What world are we living in? It's fantastic, and they sort of comment on how it's been a long time, and the Doctor says, I don't forget any of you, and that felt emotional. But then, oh boy, Tegan says, well, look, I'm being chased by the Cybermen, something to do with Cybermen. What am I thinking right now? And the 5th Doctor says, Adric. And I burst into tears. I'm not gonna lie to you. I lost it. I absolutely lost it, because if you don't know, watch the story Earthshock from the 5th Doctor's time. I think most of you know anyway, but, you know, that hit like a ton of bricks. That got me, even though they're not acknowledging it, but it's been talked about in expanded media. There's been stories, there's been books, etc., detailing what this means. But to see it on TV, to see Peter Davison as the 5th Doctor in costume deliver that line to Janet Fielding as Tegan, that one word... I can't describe to you what that made me feel. I really can't, because Earthshock hit me as a kid in such a way, and this hit me in a way I don't think Doctor Who has done in a very, very long time. And then he says Braveheart, and you can feel, I don't think I've cried on camera before. I'm not going to do it, but this hit me. This really, really hit me. And then back in Bolivia, Ace is planning to use some Nitro 9. Nice callback there to blow up this thing. And the same thing happens with her in the interface. We get Sylvester McCoy as the 7th Doctor in costume. And again, they discuss their falling out and how, you know, the Doctor, they basically make up. And he says, we're not just good, we're Ace. And again, it felt brilliant. The relationship between the 7th Doctor and Ace has always been strong. And to see it like this was so, so special. And again, Sylvester McCoy, man, smashed it out of the park with that one, absolutely. And not as emotional as the 5th Doctor one, but it still hit. And again, the expanded media references they have, I think, are subtle enough. It makes you want to check it out. And then, because this wasn't already called backy enough, Ace runs into Graham. Graham's here doing like some undercover work, which is like, okay. And then back in unit, oh, you see what I mean? There's so much, man. So then back in unit, Kate Stewart is in her office, the Cybermen have come in, and the fear that Gemma Redgrave is portraying on Kate is, from an acting standpoint, is brilliant, because, yeah, Kate always likes to, you know, act tough. She's the head of unit, she's resilient and all this sort of stuff. But the fear she displays about the Cybermen coming in is, I think, is wonderful, brilliantly acted. She offers up herself to be converted for the sake of all the soldiers, so Kate Stewart's going to be converted, apparently. Will that come to pass? But as they go down, Tegan's in the lift shaft, and Ashad hears a noise in the wall, and he says, oh, there's a human in the wall. And then, I swear to God, and I maybe need to rewatch this a few times, but the way it looked to me, the shot, he seems to smash through the wall with his head. It literally looks like Toy Story 2, you know, use your head, smash. That's what it looked like. It could have been his fist, but I swear to you, when I thought, bloody hell, has he just headbutted his way through there? Incredible. And then Jo Martyn is here. Yeah, so Yaz has a plan. She's like, right, I'm going to get the Doctor back. She gets the Master from that planet back to 1916 Russia, and Jo Martyn is here. which freaks out the Master, because I think the Master didn't meet the fugitive Doctor, so the Master's freaking out. He's like, who the hell is this? Gets the Cybermen to fire. They all kill themselves because it is, it's a hologram, of course, and apparently it's the AI interface using a decoy to throw them all off. And they manage to get the Master in the booth. The process is reversed, and the Master Doctor becomes Jodie once again. And Jodie in all the other Doctors' garb again, really, that just made me laugh. And she's like, what am I wearing? Really great line there. And but then that's all we really see of Jo Martyn. And I've got a feeling, a worrying feeling, that this is the last we'll see of Jo. This is the last we'll see of Jo on TV. I really don't want that to be the case. And hey, if you're a fan of Big Finish, she's getting some box sets with them in due time. And there's comics already about this character, which is great. But I honestly wanted a bit more of the fugitive Doctor in this last story. Or, Russell T Davies might be continuing this into 2023. For some reason, I doubt it. But hey, Jo Martyn, you had limited screen time in this era, but you made such an impression on the fandom. So brilliant stuff. And then, so where are we? See, I've got to keep track looking at these notes. We're back in unit. That's where we are. We're back in unit. And Kate's about to be converted, and she's freaking out because, no one's going to help her. The Doctor's not here. And it actually starts, and hearing Kate Stewart scream, oh my God, that went through me. That was horrific seeing that. They don't really explain how this conversion works. They just sort of electrocute them a little bit, and then they become Cybermen. It's not really explained. Maybe that could have been, or maybe it could have been a bit more gruesome, like the old surgical stuff, and maybe it was about to start, do you know what I mean? Could have been a bit darker, but alas. And Tegan's about to solve whatever she's got to solve with the big boxes. Guys, my brain's frazzled, I'm so sorry. And a Cyberman bursts through the wall, gripping her, trying to stop. Now, can't the Cybermen just electrocute her? Because at the start of this episode, a Cyberman electrocutes someone on the train, and for some reason, it doesn't do the same with Tegan, which surprised me a bit, but alas, Tegan does it. And all the Cybermen get a nasty electric shock, killing them. These ones, I think some of them were the Cybermasters, but it's not explained how they can't just regenerate again. It's not really mentioned. But, and Ashad's gone. Ashad just gets killed off like that. Back in Bolivia, Ace destroys a Dalek with a baseball bat. Nice callback to Remembrance. Love that. Thank you very much. All us Remembrance fans are waiting for it. And then back in London, the unit building is destroyed. And I have to admit, this looked a bit hammy. Now, Kate says, the building entombs itself. It collapses. It goes straight down. But there's no, debris. If you've seen any footage of, collapsing buildings, especially tall ones, there's a lot of debris that can, blow out and stuff. This one just sort of collapses, and the two of them just get out the door, and not a single bit of rubble is, landing near them. It felt a little bit hammy. Not from the acting, but from the CGI, but alas. And then the Doctor arrives, they all get in the TARDIS, and we get a little Journey's End moment, with a full TARDIS. So, you've got the Doctor, you've got Yaz, you've got Graham, you've got Ace, Tegan, Kate Stewart, who I think this is her first time in the TARDIS on TV, isn't it? How exciting is that for her? And Vinda as well, can't forget Vinda. But Vinda actually gets seen off here. They go back to the planet. The Doctor fixes his ship. Off he goes back through the wormhole. That's the end of him. I did enjoy Vinda being here in this episode. I felt his presence was nice to see. He does sort of get, off you go a little bit quickly, I think. But I thought his presence was nice. And in hindsight, I can't remember if I said different in my prediction, but Dan's early exit, near the start, now it felt right in this story. I felt if Dan had been here as well, it might have been a bit too cluttered, so I'm glad they sort of sorted that early on. But then it made me think, why couldn't we have had Dan's departure at the end of Legend of the Sea Devils, the preceding episode? I thought maybe you could have had that on. That would have been a nice departure thing, but hey, whatever. So they use the second again, I'm tired, I could be getting this wrong. So they use the two TARDISes on the planet. The Doctor goes into the one the Master left, and they use the power of the two TARDISes and the energy, I think, to right, so I've got to get this right. So they dematerialize this second planet from 1916. They make it rematerialize in 2022, and then use its power to freeze all the exploding volcanoes. Oh, that was the Dalek plan, by the way. See, there's so much, I'm forgetting things. The Daleks were going to trigger all these volcanoes to wipe out all life on Earth. How well that would have happened, you'd have to ask someone who knows geography better than I do. But they freeze it, and it becomes public art, which I thought was a nice line there. So the Doctor then leaves the TARDIS, and then she confronts the sentient energy and says, hey, if you want to be free, use that power, destroy this planet, this monstrosity, and then you'll be free, which the energy starts to do so. But then the Master, in his Rasputin drag, crawls out of the TARDIS. The Doctor basically saying, you lost, you gambled and you lost. It's the tale as old as time we've seen before. But then the Master, I think, uses his TCE somehow to blast, because the energy thing is shooting at the ground. He uses that to force the energy towards the Doctor, and this stream of what I can only imagine is pure energy smashes right through her and sends her tumbling. It was actually quite harrowing to see her just be blasted about and then left limp on the ground, and the Master himself is just limp on the ground, presumably dead. I mean, it's the Master. My prediction is he would have got up, staggered back into that other TARDIS, and buggered off. Yaz comes out, sees the Doctor there, carries her into the TARDIS, and my God, seeing Yaz, that was an image, wasn't it? Seeing Yaz carry her into the TARDIS, heartbreaking, man. And then when the Doctor eventually wakes up, everyone's left apart from Yaz. So, Tegan, Ace, etc., they've all gone. Now, at first, I was a bit worried because I thought, oh, is that the end of, Ace, Tegan, Kate? We're not going to get any goodbyes. We're not going to get any, just concrete ending. I was worried. I'll be real with you. I was a little bit worried. However, I'll get to that in a little bit. And just as we think it's all okay, the 13th Doctor is starting to regenerate. The blast of energy was just far too much. And this little scene in the TARDIS, I mean, Yaz starts crying. The Doctor says, you know what this means? It was emotional. And oh God, I sound so childish, but I was just hammering my desk going, kiss, kiss, please just kiss. Because that's what the Thassies want, it's what we all want. Because 13's finally run out of time. All those times she said to Yaz, I don't have time, I'll tell you another time. It's never going to happen. She's run out of that time, which I thought was really, really sad. And then the two of them having one last trip, just sat there on the TARDIS overlooking the Earth. Oh my God, beautiful. What a beautiful shot of them just overlooking that Earth. And again, they have this harrowing conversation, and I wondered if they'd kiss, but then Yaz suggests, no, do you know what, we shouldn't say goodbye. And at first, the first second, I thought, no, that is a cop-out, rah, rah, rah. But then, as I thought about it, I thought it was cruelly beautiful. I mean, to not say goodbye, to leave Yaz, all those feelings, just to say, let's leave it as it was, positive. We don't even see them hug or anything. There's nothing. And I think it's just so cruel in a very poetic way. I just think that's the cruelest of partings for the Doctor and Yaz, I think. So, more power to them for going down that route. And in a way, in hindsight, I feel all of us, wanting a Thasmin kiss, we didn't need it. I don't think we needed it in the end. I think the pain of that relationship of the scene on the beach in the Sea Devils episode was a great summary of it. And then I'm tired, but I'm succincting it. It was, I thought, really great way to end the Doctor and Yaz's relationship together. Not in a way anyone expected, but in a very poetic, very cruel for them both, but a very poetic way. And also, can I just say, Segun Akinola's score throughout this episode is bloody beautiful, right? It's astoundingly beautiful. So she bumps into names. She bumps into Dan and Graham, who are together, and they got an invite. There's this meeting, and Graham chairs this meeting of old companions. Yeah, people who have been with the Doctor, and they want to share their stories. And oh my God, we saw Katie Manning as Jo Grant, which was fantastic. We saw Bonnie Langford as Mel. We saw William Russell as Ian, which, oh man, that warmed my heart no end, because William Russell, bless his heart, is 95, 96? And we haven't seen him on screen as Ian since 1965. And even though he just said one line, just to have him there was bloody beautiful. So well bloody done for getting him. And Tegan and Ace are there as well, and this is what I mean. So we do see them, and they say, "Yaz, oh, is she okay?" And I for me, that solved the thing of that the Doctor didn't say goodbye to them. I think that whole theme of not saying goodbye, a proper goodbye, really rang true in this episode, and I feel how they did it with each other, the companions, really worked. And then the Doctor, on her own, says to the TARDIS to look after the next one. She goes to see one last sunrise and gives a little farewell speech. It's not as grandiose as the Moffat era, but I kind of like that. Her last words being, "Tag, you're it." And she explodes, and 13th theme music is blasting out. The scenery is bloody gorgeous, and before we know it, who is it going to be? It's David it's David Tennant. It's David Tennant. Everyone was right. I'm not going to lie. I was hoping it was Ncuti Gatwa. I did want to see our new Doctor, but we get to see David Tennant. The regeneration not just changes the face, but the clothes. He's in like Ten's garb, which I thought was a little weird. I hope they explain that in the next one, because that's never happened before. And it's also been a fun trend of seeing the new Doctor in the previous Doctor's clothes. We're all looking forward to DT in 13's outfit, but it's him in his outfit. And the first line, I know these teeth. A wonderful parallel to his, proper first line as the 10th Doctor, which was new teeth. That's weird. And he recognizes his hands, his face, and of course, like I predicted, or I said in a video, he ends with the classic 10th Doctor, what? Which, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I kind of wanted it, if it was gonna be DT, I kind of wanted it not to be a what moment, but even when I saw it, I had to grin a little bit. I was like, okay, alright, fair enough. And sure enough, that's it. And after the credits, we get a little teaser as to what's to come, including obviously things we know. Neil Patrick Harris is coming into the show. Donna's coming back. Catherine Tate's in it. And in the very last shot, we see Ncuti Gatwa saying, "Could someone tell me what the hell's going on?" Now, again, it's not clear. We don't know if this Ncuti, is he playing the Doctor? Is he playing like a random human? We don't know. But oh my god, seeing him at the very end, I was like, oh my god. So, and that, in a nutshell, in a very long, nearly 40-minute nutshell, was the power of the Doctor. I'm sorry this went on so long, but I just felt there was so much to talk about, and it's a 90-minute episode, one of the longest 2 episodes ever, and there was just so much to digest, there was so much to take in. So, final thoughts. There's no Timeless Child reference. Now, I think after Flux, when the Doctor drops the watch in the TARDIS, people thought, is there going to be more? I'm kind of, in hindsight, right, I'm kind of happy we didn't touch on it. I think if I watch 13's era now all the way through, I think the ending in Flux with the watch is a bit more satisfying now, because the power of the Doctor didn't have to worry about that. It could just really focus on what it wanted to tell. And by God, it tried to tell a lot. As I predicted, there was a lot going on, a lot of companions, a lot of monsters, a lot of sets, a lot of locations, lots of subplots. And did it all work? Personally, after first viewing, most of it, I think, yeah. I mean, I had a really fun time with this episode, I'm not going to lie to you, because for me, if I can watch Doctor Who and have a really fun time, then for me, it's done its job. It's succeeded. And there was just so much fun to be had in this, which really, really made me happy, I can't tell you. And again, the emotions, I can't bring it up again, but like the Adric line, just... There was so much going on, and I thought Jodie, for a final episode, was on top form. Everything about her Doctor was on show here. Her farewell to Yaz was gorgeous. Her regeneration was gorgeous. I don't know what else I can say, but thank you very much, Jodie, for these few years as the Doctor. Thank you for bringing some light to parts of the fandom. You've made a lot of people very happy. You've made a lot of people feel seen. You've made a lot of people feel very accepted, very welcomed, which the Doctor would absolutely do. And this era might not be for everyone. I get it. There's never a perfect era of Doctor Who. There will be eras of Doctor Who that people like and dislike. But for me, this era, you've helped me really find just the sheer love of watching Doctor Who again. So to Jodie, to all the people who've worked on the era, thank you. Thank you for making this fan a very happy fan for these last few years. I feel I should round it off here. There is probably more to talk about. I might even do like a follow-up video sometime later, maybe summarizing thoughts a bit more, because again, there's so much jam-packed. But on the whole, where I did my tier list a while ago, I'd seriously put this, first gut reaction, I'd put this in the A tier for me. It could well become that one story that beats all the rest. I mean, Demons of the Punjab is there at the minute, but I could very easily move that because this was a lot of fun. Oh, one more thing I need to mention, actually, because I said I would. Fan service. This was a very, very, very fan service episode. Probably the episode littered with the most fan service the show has ever had. And there's always a talk about fan service, is too much of it a good thing, a bad thing? Like, I've had the privilege over the last 17 years of being a Doctor Who fan. I've managed to watch as much classic Who as I can, everything that survives. I've been able to delve into the expanded media, namely Big Finish stuff. And to hear all the callbacks, the companions, the references, all of that stuff, I loved. That was very special to me. Now, I can't watch this episode from the perspective of someone who doesn't know any of that because, having consumed it, I know it, so I'll never go to that reset. I'd be very interested to hear from people who maybe haven't had chance to go through all of the classic series, namely Tegan and Ace's stuff, or delve into or any expanded media. Do you know what I mean? I'd love to hear the opinion of someone who had a more fresh take on this than I do. Do you know what I mean? I would have loved to hear. So if that's you, if you watch this and you're mainly a new Who person, or you're just getting into Doctor Who, please let me know. I'd love to hear your take on this. Was there too much fan service? You could argue yes. There's easily an argument to say this was jam-packed with too many references that only fans who consume a lot of this are going to know and that the general public won't get. I understand that. But then on the flip side, I think because this is not just, it was there in the BBC's centenary celebrations, but this is also a celebration of Doctor Who, the power of the Doctor, which they never name-dropped in the episode. But I guess the power of the Doctor is several things. It's the power to bring people together. It's the power to fight off evil and wrongdoings in the universe. It's the power to do all this stuff. And I think if that's reflecting the character, that reflects all incarnations. So all those callbacks, like the costumes or the lines, the references, seeing the past Doctors in the regeneration, purgatory space, that was very special, to me at least. So in this instance, I don't think all this fan service was all that bad. But again, it's only 45 minutes after the thing broadcast. So this might change. My thoughts might change as time goes on. But let me know your thoughts overall in the comments. What did you think of the power of the Doctor? Did you love it? Did you not like it? Did you think there was too much jam-packed into it? Do you think other things should have been resolved in a certain way? Let me know in those comments. Also, leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Again, this was far longer than I anticipated. But do subscribe to the channel if you're new. We'd love to have you here. And just once again, to Jodie Whittaker, Chris Chibnall, anyone involved in the last few years of Doctor Who, from this fan, thank you very much. I've been Adam Martyn from AMTV. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Hux Media, Ben Freeman, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Danton, The Broken Kick Sumanoid, and to Bose Krotz, our AMTV staff members.